Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 883, and yeah, I'll be honest with you guys, I really did not like this episode, like, even pretty much, but even basically, even pretty much going by the standards of basically of what we basically come to expect out of these episodes with basically getting out of these lovely arc episodes with getting a little bit of canon then cutting to flashback. Even by going by those standards, this episode was really off. This pretty much episode just kind of had me like even by the standards of what we come to expect. This episode just kind of had me turning my head going, huh? Like I'm not even joking with you guys. That's literally that was literally a lot of my reaction to this episode. But Let's stop talking about it and let's actually get into it. So starting off, just I guess with the stronger points of this episode. The episode starts off by reintroducing us to Stelly, who obviously who we get reintroduced to pretty much Stelly, who's basically Sabo's like who is, for those who don't remember, he was basically Sabo's like adopted brothers that Sabo's asshole parents had decided to adopt in order to replace Sabo, I guess, at that point. So yeah, we reintroduced to pretty much Stelly, who's obviously now the king of Goa Kingdom, as we learned before. And in this episode, it's very heavily implied with this episode that he more or less he usurped the throne. He usurped the throne from pretty much the previous king. But honestly, after this episode and just seeing how much of an ass how much of an ass that pretty much Stelly is making of himself in this episode, I'm really having a hard time even believing he managed to pull off something like that, because he of course come across as an opportunist in this episode. He's an opportunist. Don't get me wrong. He comes across as a conniving opportunist in this episode, but at the same time, a very inept opportunist. Like almost the kind of person where even if he hired someone, he would still be thwarted. He would still be thwarted in his attempt to assassinate someone, but I don't know. I'm probably confusing his actual intelligence with maybe more the common trait of being stuck up like all the other nobles, But yeah, with Stelly being the king and just seeing him, just seeing how he acts in this episode, it's just like this is this is the guy who usurped the kingdom. Who usurped the throne from the previous king of Goa Kingdom. Huh. But although then again, I guess if I remember correctly, I think the previous king of Goa Kingdom, he was also very sickly, if I'm remembering facts about Goa Kingdom's past. So I suppose in that sense, I suppose it wouldn't be too hard in order to kill the previous king. But yes. Yeah, Stelly is honestly he's just an inept opportunist, and I feel bad. I feel bad for basically everyone in Goa Kingdom for pretty much having to put up with this freaking idiot as their king. I really do. And honestly, it's actually kind of funny to say. But in this episode we get introduced to Morgans as well, who brought up a very interesting point that Goa Kingdom has given birth and aid to pretty much some of the world's most notorious outlaws in this prison era of pirates. So it's so looking at it from that perspective, it's actually kind of fitting, yet also ironic that pretty much Stelly, being the current leader, would pretty much would even resort to such underhanded methods in order to obtain the throne to begin with. Like in most even in most cases of One Piece lore, like even if the royalty are assholes, it's like the royalty in themselves are supposed to be like the good guys, but in Goa Kingdom's case, they pretty much have someone who would be considered an outlaw. who would be considered an who would be considered like basically a murderer and an outlaw for pretty much even taking the throne. But in this case, that murderer and outlaw is the new king. So yeah, it's kind of a weird twisted a weird ironic twist in that sense. Now, having said that, the pacing and focus of this episode, like I said before, the pacing and so like I said before, this episode it was not a good episode, and a lot of that comes from the fact that the pacing and focus of this episode felt really inconsistent this week. And I know it's not, like I said, I know that's something we should come to accept now with a lot of these episodes in basically in this current arc. But here it felt especially weird because pretty much going by the title, even if it's whether or not it's pretty much for better or worse, you kind of expect that pretty much Hoshi should kind of be the main focus of the episode. Like you kind of almost expect that, like just going by the title. But in this episode, it felt even, but that didn't even happen in this episode. It kind of it spent majority of the episode. It spent majority of the episode. Pretty much choosing to focus on Sabo and Stelly, like and especially by flashback to pretty much to basically the past with Sabo, and what. So yeah, that in itself, it just felt like really out of place because of that. Like you pretty much say that you're gonna promise us a lot with basically with the Fishman pirates in this with the Fishmen, with the Fishmen in this episode. But you end up switching gears to pretty much Sabo, so it's like yeah, it really felt weird and inconsistent in that way. But yeah, and strangely enough, for me, at the point where we even switched back to pretty much to basically at the point where we even switched back to pretty much the stuff with the Straw Hats, that in particular, it felt even more pointless than usual. Like I know that when we usually cut back to Straw Hats in order to fill the gap with something. But in this case, cutting back to the Straw Hats felt even more pointless than pretty much usual. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, honestly. But yeah, I think, but yeah, in terms of what Toei was thinking, I think the only way I can square with basically Toei even kind of taking this kind of left turn and not choosing to do like flashbacks of Fishman Island arc in this episode is that they probably thought that it's some that I bet they received a lot of complaints and they probably saw that they probably received a lot of complaints with the flashbacks of Fishman Island, so they probably thought that they probably almost overdone it a bit. That's the only way I can square it, honestly, but who knows for sure. And yeah, the only other noteworthy thing with any progression in this episode is that we see Sabo having officially started to infiltrate the like meeting of the kings in basically Marie-Joie as a guard. So yeah, when shit does hit the fan, you can expect the reunion to do something special. To be something special for sure. Although, based on the preview, we'll be waiting a little longer for that. Although, I do wonder if we're going to get introduced to the other asshole before it cuts to the flashback next week. But, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But, yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and also Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.